explain the idea of what self-determination is, like, and how that to me is like at the core of how this needs to be handled, and going forward, and what that really means. And I know that's kind of deep, but I really think that that's the basis of what needs to happen to solve the problem, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, self-determination, it's we had that. We've seen it before. You know, we often, all the time, we hear about the civil rights movement. We hear about Martin Luther King on his birthday, although everyone hated him when he was still alive. But that's part of being of self-determination. Exercising self-determination is not caring if you are, if the New York Times speaks well of you. Not caring if the party you go with hates you most of the time. That is part of self-determination. It is a people, in this case, Black people, deciding what we need for ourselves and mobilizing to make those demands. During the civil rights movement, that's what happened. All these things, and not just the civil rights legislation, not just the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, but Medicare, Medicaid, we would never have had them without this movement. And people stayed in movement for years, and they made demands knowing that political leadership did not want to meet them, and they didn't care, and they made them anyway, and they were outsiders. And they were content to be outsiders. But what happened is the system quickly learned, well, let's bring a few people inside. So now we talk about how many Black people have been elected to Congress.
Right.
People are co-opted, and a lot of that energy dissipated. But, you know, the Black example of self-determination is the Black Panthers program of demands, many of which you could still speak of today. You know, so many of those things have not changed or not changed enough. It's us deciding for ourselves what we need and then making those demands accordingly without apology, knowing we won't be liked, knowing that the people we vote for, you know, wish we would go away. Working outside of the electoral system, starting a new party. It can manifest in any number of ways, but that's why we have these progressives who get into office and then don't accomplish anything, because they are not talking about self-determination for their politics. They are hoping to change a system which does not want to change.
Yeah, I was like, I had this thought the other day that I'm very much certain that it is the responsibility of white people to teach white people what our problems are, that it's not Black people's responsibility to tell us that we have issues. But I think on the other end of it, I think it's a completely Black issue as to what reparations means going forward, what that looks like. I mean, you know, obviously there are many of us that wish we could undo things that were done. But obviously that's not feasible. And so I think it needs to be within the Black communities. Like, that should be their job to determine. When I hear self-determination, I see that as like, okay, how do we go forward? What is the best way to serve this going forward? So that's what I would ask.
Well, I think it's upon us to just do what we know is right for us. And it's up to others to be supportive. You know, there's this term white allies, which is a terrible term, but it's the thinking behind it is important. And that is to be supportive of justice. And you mentioned reparations as an example. I think it's pretty simple. There were 200 years of unpaid labor, legal segregation, legal Jim Crow, legal redlining, Black veterans being cheated out of their GI Bill benefits, people having their land stolen. And it's not the distant, you know, mists of time either. Right now, today, cities that have a larger Black population have higher property tax rates than white communities do. So we're talking about injustices that were legal over a long time, and you can quantify how much money that would be. And we can't worry about, Barack Obama, who should just, be an ex-president and get paid to make speeches and go away. Says, well,
He should go away.
I wanted it, but, I thought there'd be resentment. I'm like, well, there'll still be resentment. There's always resentment when people speak up and then assert their rights, especially Black people. So he didn't say anything when he was president. He should go away now. But but you're absolutely right. It's up to white people to determine for themselves what they should. Here's what I would say: support oppressed people and fight against injustice. Let's just keep it simple. So when other people talk about reparations, be supportive. Prison abolition or police abolition, just be supportive. If you have questions, you can ask them. But I would say support what is right. Support the oppressed. Be willing to look at things you may have benefited from yourself. And that doesn't mean, that a person is necessarily bad, but it means being willing to stop and think about the kind of country we have and what it means to be a Black person or to be a white person or to be in some different group. How does that impact your life? And it may not be your life you're thinking about, but that's what I would say. And always, and it doesn't have to be that you let the Black person speak first at a rally. It doesn't have, there's a lot of...
that's like identity politics stuff. That's silliness.
There's a lot of posturing. So I'm not talking about that kind of posturing, but I'm talking about just recognizing how the system works and working as much as you can to undo it. And I think another responsibility white people have is that white people will be listened to sometimes. So if it would be good if white people said, yes, reparations is something that is just, it's something that is owed by international law. I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, but
no, it's good.
Nations calls for, there is precedent for oppressed groups getting repair for harm done to them.
Yes, that the whole right. And to me, I really don't believe that we can go forward without handling this situation. And I think that over time, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse if we do not address this. It's glaring. Mm-hmm. And so I actually really liked Marianne Williamson's plan or ideas for reparations. I thought they were, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it was really interesting. Yeah, it was like, there was like a 30-person bureau made up of people that are descendants, and like it was just really cool. And an endowment and this, I know, it was above my pay grade economically, but it was good. It was the best thing I saw. And I think that that's the key thing, is that we need to, I say, sort of lend privilege is what the Lakota Sioux say. They say you lend your privilege. And so I always think of, that's key. And then the other sort of my hippie thing is I say, okay, I'm just going to hold space and sort of just be whatever you need me to be, And so I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, well, but there's one other thing that I did not mention on the issue of reparations and others as well. Black people have to have a consensus. And unfortunately, there has not been a consensus in the group about what it should look like. There are differing opinions.
But that can be something that you can have some sort of voting on, but it needs to be handled within the Black community. I mean,
but that lack of consensus creates bigger problems, because we can't even express what it is we want to the rest of the world if there's this reparation plan and that reparation plan and this, and someone else has something else to say. So I think it's incumbent upon us first to reach some sort of a group consensus about what it is we're talking about. And then we can have a better conversation about reparations and about many other things as well.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.